Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Amanda McMillan, President and CEO of United Way of Greater Houston.
Welcome everyone to our 2020 Community Campaign Kickoff and our first ever virtual campaign kickoff. I'm Amanda McMillan, the President and CEO of United Way of Greater Houston. I am thrilled you could join us today. Between the pandemic and the economic and other hardships it's created and the growing needs in our community, this year's campaign and your support are more critical than ever. It's been about 6 months since COVID-19 hit our area. United Way of Greater Houston is a leader in times of disaster, and this time is no different. When we saw COVID-19 hit our area, we immediately got to work, convening our partners and assessing the needs across the community. We worked with the Greater Houston Community Foundation to launch the Greater Houston COVID-19 Recovery Fund in March. Thanks to the generosity of so many of you, more than $17 million has been contributed to that effort to date, and we have deployed more than $16 million in grants to trusted nonprofit partners that are providing critical assistance to our neighbors. Our 211 Texas United Way helpline, which is our community's go-to resource in times of disaster and every day, has connected more than 170,000 of our neighbors with COVID-19 related assistance since March 1st. And overall, our 211 helpline has connected more than 1 million of our neighbors with help and hope so far this year. That is one indication of just how many people need our help. Another is the recently updated ALICE report for Texas, which shows that 47% of families in our area are working hard but still struggling to take care of basics like food, housing, and healthcare. That data was captured before COVID-19, so we know that the needs have increased and even more of our neighbors are struggling to get by. The good news is that 80% of United Way's annual investments are in programs and services that are now directly helping people affected by COVID-19 with those basic needs: food, housing, childcare, along with physical and behavioral health care and employment assistance. With your support, United Way provides that critical safety net to help people take care of their immediate needs and helps people break down barriers to achieve long-term financial independence and stability. We invest in more than 100 local programs. We bring organizations together to tackle big issues that no one can tackle alone. We connect people to the safety net they need in times of disaster and distress through our 24/7 211 Texas United Way helpline. And we connect people to longer-term solutions that help them move from struggle to success. Central to our mission is our belief that our community's well-being depends on the well-being of everyone who lives here. And we are working to close the opportunity gap, which we know is wider for people of color. Research suggests that achieving racial equity requires investments in programs and policies that address issues such as education, employment, and financial empowerment in racial and ethnic minority communities. Financial report of United Way's signature programs, such as United Way Thrive, Project Blueprint, United Way Bright Beginnings, and others, help break down the barriers and pave the way toward attaining racial equity in the communities we serve. Caring people like all of you make everything we do possible. We are so grateful to have you on our team. I am so excited about the great program we have for you today. You're going to hear about how HEB prepares for disaster and some of the ways they are innovating. We will also have some fun trivia featuring some students and a few of our friends from the Houston Texans. We're going to hear more about United Way's work and impact from a great group of panelists. And if you stick with us till the end, we have a very special guest performance from Cam Franklin, lead singer of The Suffers, which is one of my favorite bands. United Way is so fortunate to count you all as supporters and friends, and to have Steve Stevens leading this year's campaign. Steve is the president and CEO of Amegy Bank, a member of our United Way's Board of Trustees, and a longtime supporter of United Way's mission and work. Please join me in welcoming our campaign chair, Steve Stevens.
Thank you, Amanda, and thanks to each of you here today for everything you do for United Way and our community. I am grateful to serve as a chair of the 2020-2021 United Way Community Campaign and to work with each of you all to help our neighbors and our community during this truly unprecedented time. You heard Amanda say 47% of our neighbors struggle to get by, and we know COVID-19 has made things tougher for those who are already struggling and caused many others to struggle for the first time. A recent study reported that 63% of Houstonians are facing serious financial problems during the coronavirus outbreak. The bottom line, our community needs our help more than ever. The community campaign provides fuel that helps 2 million people improve their lives each year, that helps so many hardworking individuals and families who are working for a better future get on a pathway that will help them move from struggle to success. And helping them achieve financial stability and success helps us all. It strengthens our entire community and the economy across our region. So how are we going to spread the word and engage with people and run our campaigns even as our world looks different? We have 3 strategies in mind. We must engage people virtually. We need to provide opportunities for donors to interact in our currently virtual world with one another and with the work they are making possible. United Way has been working hard to plan virtual events like this one. I know the Women's Initiative has a virtual luncheon coming up in a couple weeks, and Link has hosted virtual trivia and a video mentoring opportunity, among others. United Way has also created tools from virtual bus tours to Zoom-ready games that are fun, easy to use, and available on the United Way website. Take advantage of those tools and work with your United Way representative to brainstorm ideas and find what works for your campaign. I just heard one of our campaigns use the phrase, apart but united. We must extend our reach. We need to reach out to additional workplaces, business owners, and business leaders to engage them as United Way donors and volunteers, especially those who appreciate and represent the diversity of Greater Houston, who have not been as adversely affected as some by the current economic environment. We must challenge each other. While early, I'm encouraged to see CEOs and business owners challenge one another to engage their employees as citizen philanthropists. I would love to see you challenge your vendors, those who do business, your colleagues, and each other to step up and show how much you care about our community and our neighbors. And outside the corporate environment, each of us is a voice in our community, among our friends, family, and neighbors. And we need to share the message. If you can help, we need your support. This year's going to be tough. And I know how much this community cares, and I'm confident that we will come together and do something about it for those in need. And I know some of you or your friends, family members, and colleagues may be affected by COVID-19 and the hardships it has created. United Way is here to help. I encourage you to share with anyone who will listen that the 211 Texas United Way helpline is here 24/7, every day of the year. And those who are fortunate enough to be doing okay, I ask you to dig deep and join me in giving to United Way. You are needed more than ever, and your gift truly makes a difference. Speaking of making a difference, up next we have a special guest who, along with his company, is committed to making a difference in our beloved community. Every person who grew up or even just briefly lived in Texas knows two things by heart: the Pledge of Allegiance to the state flag, and that no store does more than my H-E-B. You may know him as an H-E-B guy, or from his commercials with the likes of J.J. Watt, Deshaun Watson, Craig Biggio, and Jose Altuve. He leads a team of more than 120,000 partners that is not just committed to operating great grocery stores, but also to investing in communities they serve, whether by fighting hunger, aiding in disaster recovery, or promoting education. He and so many H-E-B partners in our area are committed United Way supporters. Please join me in welcoming the president of H-E-B Food and Drug, Scott McClellan.
Hey, Steve, thanks so much. It's so good to be with you guys. I wish we were there in person. It would be more fun, but we'll do the best we can with what we have. Here's what I thought I'd do today. I talked to you a little bit about H-E-B and how we approach the COVID-19 crisis, because certainly that's changed all of our lives this year. And then I talked to you a little bit about how H-E-B innovates and adapts to be successful in the marketplace. So over the course of the next 30 minutes, that's what we're going to cover. So let's get started. You know, H-E-B, you probably or hopefully have shopped at an H-E-B, but you might not have a feel for just how big the company is. H-E-B has 415 stores. We only operate in the state of Texas and Mexico. We're the 6th largest grocery chain in the United States, but everybody who's bigger than us operates stores in really across from coast to coast. But us, Texas and Mexico, that's our sweet spot. We're $31 billion in size, and we started with a single store in 1905 in Kerrville, Texas. Interestingly enough, the next 4 stores that the Butt family tried to open all went out of business, and it wasn't until they opened their second store in Del Rio, Texas, that we got on our way to being a supermarket chain, and today have grown quite a bit. We're vertically integrated, which means we run our own manufacturing plants. So we have a dairy and a chip plant, an ice cream plant, a tortilla plant. You know, we export more tortillas to the country of Mexico than any other manufacturer in the United States. Not exactly sure what that means. We have 121,000 employees. We call them partners, and that makes us one of the largest employers in the state. And we work hard on having really good people work for us. So the way we go about our business is a little bit different than most companies, because we strive to be the best retailer so that, or said another way is, we sell groceries to pay the bills, but we do that so we can do some other things. We want to invest in our partners' pay and benefits so that folks can earn a living wage and have good careers at H-E-B. We all wear numbers on our badges. Mine says 30. That talks about how long we've worked at the company. And it's amazing when you go into stores to just see how much seniority there is, because people make a career out of working at a supermarket. Second, we invest in our customers through having unique products and low prices. In some parts of Texas, our market share is in the 80% range. You don't say you're going to the supermarket, you just say, hey, I'm going to H-E-B. And you would think with that dominant of a market share that we might be able to get away with higher prices. But our prices are lower than Walmart's, way lower than Kroger's, and please, Randall's, come on. And then finally, we invest in our communities, because we have a belief that if we make our communities a better place to live, that more people will want to live in them and ultimately shop at H-E-B, and that creates a nice virtuous cycle. And so last year, H-E-B was named as being the top grocery chain in the United States. We had ranked 2nd or 3rd for years, but this was the first time that we took out Trader Joe's, Amazon, and others. And it's something that we have a lot of pride in, because it's 120,000 plus H-E-B partners all working at trying to be the best and working at continually improving. So let's switch gears and talk about what's changed in our lives starting March 1st up until now, and that's COVID-19. It's changed so many things in the country, in your life, in my life, and let's talk about how H-E-B has adapted, because since that day, we really have had to look at operating our business far differently than we ever did before. One of the things that sets H-E-B apart is that we work from an emergency operations center. We do this for every hurricane, and as COVID-19 came on, we utilized it also. but it is a way for us to be able to communicate and plan for issues that bubble up from the stores. And it's also a way to disseminate information about how we will operate. And it allows us to adapt, to innovate, and be fleet of foot. And clearly, with COVID-19, we were experiencing changes to our business that we had never seen before. And frankly, in some instances, we're having to make up as we went along simply so that we could provide groceries to you, customers who wanted to shop in our store. So there was a myriad of issues that we had to work through and think through, like what would we do on absenteeism? What would happen if 30% of our partners came down with COVID-19 or chose not to come to work? What about sanitization? Because we knew that that was important, both in terms of masks, but also in terms of sanitizing our stores. Early on, different local entities were imposing rules on us in terms of how we had to operate our stores that we hadn't been used to having that level of involvement before. Product availability. There was a day in early March when we virtually had almost no product on the shelf. And in my 30 years at H-E-B, I had never seen anything like it. So time and again, we had to work hard to come up with different ways to adapt to the environment so that we could have people work in the store, and that was our first goal. Have our partners show up. Secondly, have products to sell. And then as an umbrella over all of it is make sure that everybody feels safe. So many people have come up to me and said, H-E-B, you guys must be making a killing because we can't go out to eat anymore. And the reality is our sales have been very strong. But we've also had to incur a lot of expenses to make sure that we had a safe environment for customers to shop in and for our partners to come and work. And so early on, my cohort here in Houston, Armando Perez, came up with the idea of putting in these acrylic shields. I had had a conversation with the team at the Texas Medical Center, and they were talking about shortage of PPE, whether it was masks or gowns, or what they talked about, acrylic face masks. And I shared that with Armando, and he said, we should do that at our check stands. And as a result, H-E-B was the first chain and the first retailer in the United States to come up with these. We sanitize each and every cart. We put everyone in masks. We put dividers on the store. But we know this is that if people don't feel safe coming to the supermarket, we don't have any business. And if we don't have employees show up, we have no one there to take care of the customers who do show up. Now, there have been a series of thorny issues that we've had to work through, probably none more challenging than masks and mask ordinances county by county. And unfortunately, it's been made a big political issue when the reality is if we had just looked at masks as being the right patriotic thing to do, we could have slowed the spread earlier. But this is one that was challenging in a lot of West Texas towns where the population was older. I would have rules imposed upon me that said we had to open the stores early for senior citizens. And this was challenging for us because we had pulled back our operating hours to be 8 to 8. And so then local municipalities were saying, yeah, but you got to be open 1 or 2 hours early for senior citizens. Well, what is the definition of a senior citizen? Is it 60, 65, 70? Now, if I open the store early for a senior citizen, what about the disabled? And what is the definition of disabled? You're in a wheelchair or you have a support dog. And if I open it for disabled and for elderly, what about first support? And what are first responders? Is that police and firefighters? What about EMTs and nurses? And pretty soon I would be making an exception for virtually everyone except for my core customers who were already waiting in line, and there would be no toilet paper left for them to buy. So what we did was we engaged our partner company, Favor, that we bought a couple of years ago, and we said, look, if you shouldn't be in the store because you're disabled or because you're older and at risk, we will deliver your groceries to you free of charge. And this was a way for me to be able to keep my stores open for everyone and utilize a different service than anyone else could to those people who are at risk. And it's a good example of the type of innovation that we had to use time and time again, whether it was ordering masks, whether it was sanitizing the store, whether it was opening the store early or not for senior citizens. So there's been so much discussion about COVID and the impact that it's had on the economy. And the reality is that in the second quarter, the GDP for the United States fell by 32%. And that was a more steep drop than any quarter that we had seen since the Great Depression. It's big on the economy, and we certainly have seen the challenges throughout different industries, different people that we know who now are unemployed, don't have jobs, or looking for new jobs, et cetera. And then when you put on top of that in Houston, what has happened to oil prices, in part because of the glut of oil from people not using it as much, we've gone from bad to worse, and that's made it difficult. Speaking of unemployment, you can see that our unemployment almost reached the 15% range. And when you think about that, is the question really for Houston is, are we going to be in a recession or are we going to be in a depression? Because we've lost well over 200,000 jobs. That's in the neighborhood of 15% of our jobs since COVID started. Some of them have come back, and as restaurants open up and if people will travel more, but you hear it time and time again of the big impact that we're seeing as a result of COVID-19. And this has led to a whole host of bankruptcies from, in particular, retailers around the United States. And it hasn't just been general merchandise or apparel retailers, although they have been affected. But as you look in the U.S., specialty grocery stores, like Lucky's, which is a healthy grocery store chain that's in Florida, and others have been impacted also. Now, in general, as I alluded to earlier, is supermarkets have done pretty well because our share of stomach has gone up. So if you think about all the food that goes into your mouth creates a pie chart in your stomach, if people can't go out to restaurants, which before COVID, about half of all meals were eaten out of the home, and now all the meals are going to be eaten at home, that worked out well for us. And you can see that supermarket sales are up in the 9-10% range nationally, while restaurants are down 33%. And sit-down dining has been affected far more than quick service, but it's safe to say that if you look at it relative to 2019, which is the top line, and compare it to 2020, which is the blue line down below, is sales are down significantly for supermarkets. And because so many people work in that industry, that's created a lot of displacement and a lot of the unemployment. Not just there, but also anything having to do with whether it's eating out, hotels, traveling, airlines, et cetera. Now, a second thing that has happened is that the government stepped up and looked to prop up the economy to make it better for people who were in need. And so the CARES Act came out and gave money to Texans and to Americans. And then obviously SNAP or Lone Star, which are food stamps, those numbers increased also. And so as a result, if you look at the CARES numbers here, it helped people who were out of work to be able to pay their mortgage or buy groceries or pay for a lot of the necessities. But I think it's safe to say that we've seen those stimulus dollars slow. And as we get to November, I'm pretty sure that they're pretty much going to go away. And you can see here from this chart is that the value of this stimulus money has really helped value shoppers and people who are looking to have to live paycheck to paycheck and week to week, is that it had a much larger impact on their ability to purchase items than it did on up customers who have credit cards and have some elasticity in their ability to spend. We're spending across all forms of personal spending, as you look at retail, is down versus year ago. And at the same time, people shifted how they purchased items from going into stores because they were told to sequester at home to buying more online. And so you can see that online sales are up dramatically. It's a good time to be Amazon. And if you just run in-store only, that sales at best were flat. But I think what's interesting here is if you think about what Amazon did to the book business, where everyone went out of business and there was just Amazon eventually, what you can see is that in the supermarket business is that people are still coming into the stores, but they're shifting some in how they buy, not all the time, but some of the time to utilize curbside or home delivery. And so you can see this if you look at major retailers and their digital sales growth, which would be their curbside or their home delivery, is that Kroger up 127%, Target up 195%, and Walmart, who works off of a much larger base, has roughly doubled their business. Now, what's interesting when you think about shifting your business from inside the store to curbside is that when you shop in a supermarket, you're free labor, meaning you pick the items off the shelf and take them to the check stand. When you use digital, we now become the free labor because we don't charge you the commensurate amount of what it costs us to pick the order. So while the business has gone up and shifted this way, it hasn't necessarily helped the profitability mix for retailers as more business shifts from in the store to online. So what do we need to be prepared for in 2021? Or as my wife says to me when I get home at night, Is this going to go on forever? And I wish I had better news, but the reality is I think we're going to be doing this for a while. I think we're going to be wearing masks, and I think we're going to have to wait a while, despite a lot of what you're hearing, for a vaccine to come. And even if a vaccine comes, how available is it going to be? And there's certainly a lot of debate about anti-vaxxers and people being willing to take it. And so at what point in time will we be able to drop it down, much like what we did with polio? I think government subsidy will slow significantly. So the final PPP payments that go out to small businesses so they can continue to pay their employees, September is the last month for that. And when that happens is that businesses that are relying on that to stay afloat, I'm afraid we're going to see them close, which means that we will see unemployment go up. And that's going to be a problem that we're going to have to deal with. And we're going to see continual political unrest regardless of November's election, whether Trump wins or whether Biden wins, that we are so polarized politically that I think we're going to continue to see a lot of the difficulties that we're currently dealing with. And there's a risk for big and significant economic problems. I alluded to the fact that will it be a recession? In Houston, will it be a depression? But I think we're going to see tough times ahead, which means that more people are going to have to rely on nonprofits to help them prop them up as they go through these difficult times. And then families are really struggling right now with school, part of it being online, part of it being in session. How do I work my work week? And we've had to be very flexible at HEB as a result of that. But an even bigger issue is, look, kids stop going to school in March. And oftentimes there's a thing called summer fade that says kids lose ground between June and September. Well, now it's been March to the end of August when school started back in. And now they're having oftentimes to do it online. And the quality of education that was struggling before we got into COVID-19 is going to struggle even more as we get into 2021. You know, I said earlier, HEB only operates in two places, Mexico and Texas. Walmart is everywhere. You know, and I get up every morning, I say, dear God, please don't let Walmart come in and squish us like a bug. They're 17 times bigger than HEB. And at HEB, one of the things we are is we're paranoid. Now, Andy Grove, who founded Intel, he had this quote. It said, success breeds complacency, complacency breeds failure, and only the paranoid survive. And we have a good toehold in Texas because we got here first. Our market shares area by area are significant, 60, 70% in a lot of the largest cities in Texas. We're the market share leader in Houston. But rather than rest on our laurels, we tend to think, what's next and what do we need to do in order to be better? And a lot of that perspective is driven by this slide. These are the top 10 retailers that existed in 1995. And while Walmart and Kroger are the same, numbers 3 through 10 are all different. They've either gone out of business, downsized, or been bought by someone else. And you think to yourself, well, what happened over the course of, 25 or 30 years? Why was there such a different scene in the supermarket industry? Because these supermarket chains, they knew their customer in 1995. The problem was the customer changed and the supermarkets didn't, and someone else came in to take over for them. And an example that I love to give is thinking about bananas, which is the #1 selling individual item in a supermarket. I now sell more sushi than I do bananas. But in 1995, we sold no sushi at HEB. So being able to adapt to how people shop, what they want to eat, and for us realizing that there's a difference on how people shop based off of their income level and their ethnicity. So at HEB, we tailor the assortment in every store for the people who live around the store. If I kidnapped you and took you to a Kroger in 3 different cities, you wouldn't be able to tell me which city we were in because Kroger goes to market with one single model that targets a middle-income shopper. And so we talk a lot about curiosity at HEB, and it doesn't just apply about business, it also applies to everything that you do in life. You know, oftentimes I see people in their careers have a really good career and then they get intellectually lazy. They aren't as curious about how things are work or where they can take their business or how they can continue to grow as a person. And frankly, my thought, as I'm age 63 now, this scares me more than anything, is how do I stay current, how do I stay curious, and how do I stay on top of new and emerging trends to stay on top of our game? So that curiosity starts with knowing your customer. And an interesting thing about living in Texas is we're Texans first and Americans second. And anything I put in the shape of Texas or put the Texas star on, I can get an extra dollar for because you're so loyal to our state and like our state just that much. Here's a good example of curiosity. We opened up a store in Meyerland that serves a very large Jewish community, of which a chunk of that keeps kosher. And we knew when we opened it, we wanted to be able to serve that segment of the population different than what we would in the Woodlands, simply because of the concentration of kosher Jews. So my store manager, who happens to be Czechoslovakian on the left, went and lived in Brooklyn for 2 weeks with that rabbi, and he kept a kosher lifestyle. He stayed in a kosher hotel, he ate kosher, he visited Jewish schools, went to Jewish hospitals that kept kosher, but he really immersed himself in what is it like to keep kosher so that he would do a better job of providing the goods and services that his customers need. Similarly, we spend a lot of time worrying about these people, millennials. There are more millennials in Texas than any other age group, and I'd love to talk to them, but they'll only visit with me via text. But the way in which they shop and the fact that they eat out more and how they buy groceries is different than people who are my age. And a lot of that stems for how they view time and money. Let me show you. These are my two daughters on the left, and they'd be willing to spend $10 to save 15 minutes of their time. They have groceries delivered to their house. If they're going to eat out, they'll call Favor and have it delivered. On the other side are my parents. And my dad would spend 15 minutes out of his day to save $10. There was nothing he liked better than to brag about buying gas that was 2 or 3 cents cheaper. He'd spend more money finding the gas than he saved, but it was the thrill of the hunt and the fact that he had more time that my daughters don't. And if there's one product I could point to at H-E-B that really underscores it, it would be this. It's called Bare Bread. We cut the crust off and we charge you an extra dollar. And when we first came out with it, I called the buyer and said, really, you've gone too far here. You think people will pay $1 for us to cut the crust off? And he said, not only will they, but I'll sell 1 million loaves this year. And he did. If my dad were still alive and saw that, he would say, son, this is why North Korea will defeat us. So one of the things we saw happen 3 or 4 years ago was this beginning of companies to develop meal kits, Blue Apron, HelloFresh, and Plated. And we heard it was really all of the rage as people began to order these in. And there was some discussion that no one was going to go to the supermarket anymore because these meals would come in pre-measured out and you could just put them together and cook them at home. It would save time and effort. Well, if you're in the supermarket business, this made us very nervous. So what we did is we went and we asked 250 of our customers to take a picture of every meal that they ate over the course of a week so that we could understand how were they eating and how had it changed? And here's what we found out. Customers eat off paper plates. In fact, I asked my staff, about 25 people, all well paid, what percentage of you or how many of you eat off paper plates? 75% of them did. And I said, why? They said, because we don't like to do dishes. But if you bring in a meal kit, you're going to have to use bowls and spoons and stirrers and different utensils, which will mean that you're going to do more of washing dishes. So what did we do instead? We did this. We came out with a 300 count paper plate because if people want paper plates, the more of them you have in your house, the more of them that you're going to use. And we realized that meal kits weren't the answer. And instead we went in this direction. We developed a line of products called Meal Simple, where we actually did all of the work and put it into a container that you could put in the oven, eat out of, and then simply throw away. And today we have about 200 different entrees and sides, whether it's seafood or chicken or meat or vegetarian. And this really has made a big dent in appealing to the convenience nature of what shoppers are looking for today. So when you're in the supermarket business, the way I think about it is a little bit like this chart, is you've got to think about what's next. So just as underwear has evolved over the time, so has grocery shopping in terms of thinking about what's next, what can we do differently? You know, my dog is happy eating the same thing every day for her entire life. But if I gave you a tuna sandwich 3 days in a row, you would complain on day 4 that you want something else. So we try to figure out what you want and what you want to buy before you know it. And because we tailor the merchandising in every store, our customers have this personal relationship with H-E-B where they begin to refer to it as my H-E-B. In fact, I got a customer complaint recently and they said, I'm so mad at my H-E-B, I'm never going to that one again. From now on, I'm going to go to the one that's over here. And so there is this loyalty, and I've never heard anyone talk about my Starbucks or my Chick-fil-A or my Mickey D's. And having this personal relationship with the customer, we think is critical to being able to have loyalty. And a piece of that loyalty is created by what we call the spirit of HEB, or you could just refer to it as our corporate culture. And your corporate culture really tells you what to do when your CEO isn't in the room. There's Charles Butt, our CEO today. And he really sets the mantle in terms of what we try to do in the community, what we try to do for our customers, and what we try to do for our partners every single day when we wake up. 5 years ago, he made the decision to turn HEB into an ESOP and give ownership in the company to our partners. So now we don't have employees, we're all co-owners. And this helped to build the loyalty. You know, if where you work is more than a job and you feel that strongly about it, then you tend to treat your customers and the people that you work with even better. And nowhere does our culture show up more than in times of natural disaster. We don't like hurricanes, but we do know how to do them. You can see here a picture of our mobile kitchen that can feed 2,000 people in an hour. We just rolled it out to Orange, Texas when Hurricane Laura hit last month to make sure that we could feed people whose electricity was lost or may have lost all the food in their house. But when disaster is there, we look to be the last to close, the first to open, and to be there for our communities in times of need. And it doesn't stop with what we do there, but also supporting nonprofits, whether it's the Houston Food Bank. We knew that people needed meals as we got into COVID-19, or supporting the United Way in a major way so that we can do good things across our state and make it a better place to live. I guess the way I think about it is if you can, then you need to. And it doesn't matter if it's HEB or if it's an individual. When you look at a year like 2020 and 2021, the ability to step up and help make a difference for those who aren't doing as well as you is absolutely critical. And in addition to what we do for nonprofits, we put a lot of effort around public education because it is so critical. The workforce for tomorrow is being educated today. And as I mentioned, COVID-19 is making that more difficult. And it's a major emphasis at HEB that everyone who lives in our state, regardless of your parents or the zip code that you were born into, deserves to get a good quality education. Well, it's no secret that ensuring that all kids having access to quality education is a big passion of HEB's and mine. And the United Way is also passionate about helping young people succeed. So one of the many things that the United Way does in our community is to provide for out-of-school enrichment to help kids by exposing them to activities that make learning not only fun, but also engaging. So we have a special treat for you today to have a few fifth graders from one of our United Way's out-of-school partners, the YMCA, here with us, and they're going to compete with a few of my good friends at the Houston Texans in a game of Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader? So let me turn it over to our game host, Jeff Ealing at Channel 13. Jeff, take it away, and it's been great being with you.
Thanks, Scott. I am so excited to join you and everyone else for this year's United Way annual community kickoff event, and I'm super excited to host the United Way's first ever Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader show. We've got two teams playing, obviously some very smart local fifth graders, and then the best that the NFL has to offer, a team made up of a Texan player, a Texan legend, and a couple of Texans cheerleaders, a team from the Houston Texans. Woohoo! Yes. All right, we're going to introduce the fifth graders first, and they actually participate in a couple of local NCAA organizations, Weekly YMCA and the Houston Texans YMCA. And those students are Caden S. from Terrence Elementary School. Caden, yay! Thanks for joining us. You are super smart. I can just feel it. And our next fifth grader is Julia H. from Toddwell Elementary School. Julia, woohoo! Julia's favorite subject is math, so watch out, Wade. I hope there's not any math questions in there for you. And next, our fifth grader is Layla from Mark Twain Elementary School. Welcome to the show. We love you. She loves playing coding games and watching Halloween Wars cooking shows, so she's going to scare up some right answers for us. And then finally, our final fifth grader is Sid C. from Westview Elementary School. He loves reading and playing baseball, and let's see if he can't mix it up on the gridiron with these Houston Texans. Now, that brings us to our Houston Texans team. We love these guys and gals. They are absolutely wonderful. We're going to introduce you to our very first Texan player. He is a linebacker, recently named team captain. Let's give it up for Dylan Cole. Dylan. Good job, Dylan. Our next guy from the Houston Texans. You see this guy walking down the street, you know you've seen a Houston Texan. Let's give it up for Houston Texan legend, Wade Smith. Yeah, Wade, we love you, Wade. Thanks for joining us in all this. Now, you've seen the brawn for the Texans. Now, let's introduce you to the brains behind this squad, all right? First, Houston Texans cheerleader, Courtney. Courtney, give it up for Courtney. Yes, good job, Courtney. And the final Houston Texans team member is Houston Texans cheerleader, Imani. Woo, Imani, welcome to the show. We certainly hope you and all of your teammates are smarter than a fifth grader. Now, to keep score along the way, we've got somebody very special participating for us. You know him, you love him, you see him at every Texan home game and in the community all over the place. It's Toro! Toro's going to keep us in check and in charge and moving right along. And Toro, you got to keep the numbers correct. I know you want the Texans to win, but those fifth graders, they're pretty smart too. All right, so we've changed the rules just a little bit for this show. I'm going to break that down for you. Here's how it goes. For each round, we are going to pit a Texan against a fifth grader. Now, I'm going to ask a question to the Texans team member, and while they're thinking about it, our fifth grader is going to write down what they believe the answer is. Now, if the Texan team member can answer the question independently and get it right, they get 10 points. But if they think they need some help, they can ask the fifth grader for their assistance, and the fifth grader will hold up their answer. And if the answer is correct, the Texan gets 5 points, and the fifth grade team gets 10 points. If the Texan and the fifth grader are wrong, that's 0 points. So we're going to one round, one question per round, and of course, 10 points goes to each winner of the round. In the event of a tie, we've got a tiebreaker. So let the games begin. First, we're going to have Dylan Cole versus Caden S. And if you two guys are ready, here is your first question. Again, Dylan, you think about your answer. Caden, you write it down. First question. Why do you often see lightning before you hear the thunder? Why do you often see lightning before you hear the thunder? Give it a couple of seconds there, Dylan. Think about it.
Can I start off by saying I never said I was smarter than fifth graders? Just in case, you know, this thing goes south. I never said I was smarter than a fifth grader, but I feel good about this one. I believe that light travels faster than sound.
What do you think, fifth grader? You think that's a good idea? Yeah, he got it right. All right, Texans, way to go. All right, Dylan, you are smarter than a fifth grader, or at least as smart as a fifth grader. How about that? We'll keep it that way. All right, so now our second question is going to pit Julia against the Texans legend, a guy who's hard to beat, Wade Smith. You guys ready?
I'm ready.
All right, here's the question. In initials for the federal agency NASA, what does the first A stand for? Again, in the initials for the federal agency NASA, you know, the space guys, what does the first A in NASA stand for? I'm going to give Wade a couple seconds to think about it. Julia, you write your answer down just in case you need a little bit of help.
Gosh, I feel like this is like a really, really obvious answer. And because of that, I am very nervous that I would get it wrong. So I'm going to trust Julia to get me at least 5 points. So I'm gonna trust the fifth grader on this one. I should know this. I've lived in Houston for 10 years now, and I've been to NASA more than once, but I'm gonna trust the fifth grader on this. What do you got, Julia?
All right, Julia, hold up your card. What you got? Aeronautics. That's exactly right. So, okay, that's a smart call by Wade there. That's 15 points, I believe, for the Texans team, and I believe we have 5 points for the fifth graders. Toro will keep us in check, though. He'll let us know. All right, so now let's move on to the third question, pitting Layla against our Houston Texans cheerleader, Courtney. All right, here we go. What was the name of the first satellite put into orbit by the United States? The name of the first satellite put into orbit by the United States. And we got a multiple choice here. So here are the potential answers. Was it Titan, Mercury, Apollo, or Explorer 1?
Oh,
Courtney,
I
give me a couple
know.
of seconds to think about this. It's tough.
I'm
It's a tough one.
confident it's one of the last two.
So either Apollo or Explorer 1. That's what you're going with. You're thinking about those two. How confident are you in those?
I don't know. I might have to call my girl Layla over here. Layla, what do you think?
Layla?
Apollo.
That is wrong. No points awarded. The correct answer was Explorer 1.
Oh, so close.
Yeah, that was a tough one. That was very, very hard. Almost unfair. All right, so now let's go to our fourth question. Sid from Westview Elementary School facing off against Texans cheerleader Imani. All right, so here's the fourth question. What is the name of the most famous English playwright? And again, we've got multiple choices. The question, what is the name of the most famous English playwright? And the choices are William Shakespeare, J.K. Rowling, George Bernard Shaw, or Edward Bulwer Lytton. Literary greats there. But which one?
I'm going to have to go with William Shakespeare.
William Shakespeare, of course. Did you get that, Sid?
I'm still writing it.
He's still writing it. I see William on there. So
Did we get it?
We got it. Very good. All right, so it's going to be Toro going to have to keep us on track of what the scores are. Now we go to question 5. Once again, Caden is up with Dylan. Dylan, you ready to go, Dylan?
I'm back.
All right, here we go. Which of the following states is not on the Gulf of Mexico? A little bit of geography for you, Dylan. So the choices are Georgia, Texas, Florida, Alabama, Louisiana, or Mississippi. One of the states not on the Gulf Coast. Your choices are Georgia, Texas, Florida, Alabama, Louisiana, or Mississippi.
That's a tough one. So if I get this wrong, we get 0 points on the board over here, huh?
Goose egg.
Oh man. You know, I'm trying.
A lot of pressure.
This is
You
this is
know
my
what
worst
pressure's all
subject
about.
here. I really think it's Georgia, but I'm not 100%.
What do you feel
I got a
about
timer here.
50-50 on this answer? Where are you here?
Yeah, I'm thinking I'm between Georgia and Mississippi. I'm trying to remember how Mississippi looks on the Gulf, but I think Georgia's above Florida. I'm gonna go Georgia. And risk it all
let's
here.
see what the answer that Caden had. Show us your card, Caden. What do you got?
Nice.
You got it. Georgia. Georgia is the correct answer. You are at least as smart as a 5th grader. Dylan, great job. Okay, now let's move on to question number 6. 6 is going to put us against Julia and Wade Smith. All right, Wade. This one's again in the area of geography. What state is the Grand Canyon in? What state is the Grand Canyon in? And you've got a couple of choices, Wade. Is it California, Arizona, North Dakota, New Mexico, or South Dakota? You're on the clock, Wade.
Wow. So I feel like it has to be either Arizona or New Mexico. And both of those states border each other. And it's pretty big, so it seemed like it could possibly be in both states, but I know that's not the right answer.
It is not both, I can tell you that.
Not both. Oh my gosh. I'm gonna guess on this. And if I get it wrong, then I just get it wrong. But I'm gonna guess. I'm going for plus though. I'm gonna say the Grand Canyon is in New Mexico.
Arizona is the answer. Did you get that, Julia? All right, very good. Now those points go over to the 5th grade team. Texans, though, you're still doing pretty good. Toro will keep us updated on the scores as we go on. All right, so now we've got question number 7 coming up. And this is going to pit Layla against Courtney on the Houston Texans cheerleaders team. All right, here we go. Question number 7. What are the 3 states of matter? 3 states of matter. Are they solid, liquid, and gas? Are they water, rocks, and soil? Or is it land, air, and space? We've got a multiple choice question here. We need the 3 states of matter. Courtney, How are you feeling?
Man, I'm so glad I paid attention in 5th grade. Let me tell you, it's going to be solid, liquid, and gas.
Woohoo! You're right. It's solid, liquid, and gas. Fantastic job, Courtney. Good job. You are at least as smart as a 5th grader. All right, now let's move on to question number 8, which pits Sid against Imani from the Texans team. Question number 8. This is a good one. It's from the field of mathematics. I hope you're ready. What is the lowest prime number? The lowest prime number. Imani, what do you think?
I was hoping I was going to get some multiple choice.
Sorry, you don't. It doesn't work out that way.
Oh man, I was so good at math. Why don't I remember this? Oh gosh.
You know, the prime numbers, they're so primal. Why can't we remember them or figure them out? Oh, after 5th grade, some of that knowledge just goes away. But our 5th grader knows, I'm pretty sure.
The lowest prime number.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh, I'm sweating. I should remember this.
It's tough. It's tough to beat a 5th grader. I've had a couple of 5th graders in my house. They know everything.
Do I want to give my answer or do I want Sid to answer this for me? You know what? I'm going to put my pride aside and I'm going to let Sid answer this one for me.
All right, Sid, show us your card. You are correct, Sid. It is 2. Prime numbers can only be divided by themselves, and the number 1 and 2 is the only prime number. How about that? I know you guys know that. All right, so let's take a look at the scores. The Houston Texans have managed to get 50 points. That's great. That beats Indianapolis any day of the week, but it doesn't beat our 5th graders. They have 70 points. So we're going to have a little bonus round going on, see if the Texans can close that ground or if the 5th graders truly are smarter than Houston Texans. Let's find out. Okay, here we go. This is going to pit Layla and Houston Texans cheerleader Courtney. Here we go. Which Houston sports team and their players donate the most to the United Way of Greater Houston? Is it the Houston Rockets, the Houston Texans, the Houston Astros, or the Houston Dynamo? Courtney, which Houston sports team is the winner when it comes to donating to the United Way of Greater Houston?
I'm going to put all the faith in my boys, and I'm going to say the Houston Texans.
Layla, what do you think? You think it's the Texans? Yes. It is the Texans. The Texans far and away donate more money to the United Way than any other individual sports team, and that makes the Houston Texans winners, even if they're not as smart as 5th graders. Let's give it up to everybody who participated in this day's show. We really appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for making it a lot of fun. Our 5th graders, they're smart. Our Texans, they're smart too. Now go out there and bring back the South, guys. Toro, what was the final score? Congratulations, everybody. The winner is the 5th graders. Of course it's the 5th graders. It was always going to be the 5th graders. They're super smart kids. But the Texans, guys, almost pulled it out. I'm very proud of you. You guys really worked hard on the field. Maybe hit the books in the offseason. All right. I want to thank everybody out there for putting this together. I certainly hope you had as much fun as I did. Thank you to the United Way of Greater Houston for all you're doing to ensure that the kids in our community are getting the out-of-school support they need. It's now more critical than ever before. And parents, if you're watching, the United Way of Greater Houston has resources that you can find. They're very valuable as you look for additional activities for your kids. So check them out. Here's the website, www.unitedwayhouston.org/work/education/educational resources. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it. Now over to you, Steve.
That was fascinating. Now I'd like to introduce one of Scott's colleagues, Vice President of HEB Houston and Chair of the United Way of Greater Houston's Board of Trustees. Please join me in welcoming our moderator, Armando Perez.
Thank you, Steve. Hello, everyone. As Steve said, I am Armando Perez, and I'm excited to be with you all today as the host of this great panel. Before, during, and after disasters, from hurricanes to a pandemic, in good times and bad, United Way is here working with your help to lift people up and help them from struggle to success. COVID-19 and the hardships it created have shown us that the work we are doing and have planned with our second century vision are more important than ever. We're fortunate to have 3 well-versed volunteers with us today to tell us more. They each lead a council or committee representing a different piece of United Way's work. Please join me in welcoming the former chairman of FMC Technologies and chair of the United Way Thrive Council, John Gremp, partner at Foley Gardier and chair of United Way's Community Impact Committee, Ron Aron, and former chief operating officer for the National Math and Science Initiative and chair of United Way's Education Council, Sue Payne. Thank you to our panelists for their volunteer leadership and for sharing their expertise with us here today. Let's get started. The first question is for Ron. Ron, Amanda briefly talked about ALICE, asset limited, income constrained, employed. Data shows that the number of those who are ALICE has increased in Texas and in the greater Houston area, even before the pandemic. Can you share the highlights of the new ALICE data for our area?
Sure. So the percentage of households below the ALICE threshold increased from 40% in 2016 to 47% in 2018 for the greater Houston area. So that's an increase of almost 20% over a 2-year period. And while we expected an increase because wages are not keeping up with inflation and a large majority of the new jobs do not pay enough, I personally was surprised to see that the need grew as much as it did over the 2-year period. I mean, the whole point of collecting this data is to present a more accurate picture of the economic reality in our community using bare bones, real world, conservative estimates for what it takes to make ends meet. The data shows that almost 1 million households in our community are living paycheck to paycheck and are essentially one sickness or broken down car away from not being able to provide the basics that they need or that their families need. And this problem is not specific to one area in Houston. If you look at the ALICE data, you can look at the different Houston area counties, and you can see that the need is fairly consistent county by county. One area where there are some stark differences, though, is if you account for race or ethnicity. You can see that in the 2018 data, 58% of Hispanic households and 60% of Black households in the greater Houston area were struggling to make ends meet. Now, the new ALICE data reflects a snapshot of economic conditions in our community in 2018. So if you layer on top of that the devastating economic impact of the COVID-19 crisis, these inequalities have been greatly exacerbated. One of the things we learned from Dr. Kleinberg's presentation on the latest Kinder Houston area survey is that 39% of respondents in the Harris County area could not come up with $400 to deal with an emergency. These people certainly cannot deal with months of either unemployment or underemployment as a result of COVID. So now you have a situation where families that were maybe skimping on basics before all of this started are now at risk of falling further behind. They have to choose between various needs and letting some needs go unmet. And when you start to let some of your needs go unmet, you risk ending up in a downward spiral. And helping to prevent that sort of downward spiral is a large part of why we collect the ALICE data and what the United Way tries to do with the ALICE data.
How does the United Way help ALICE and those who are struggling to get by?
Sure. So there are a number of ways that we invest the money that we raise to try to help people that fall below the ALICE threshold. One of the biggest things is that when people can't make ends meet, we provide basic needs, whether that's utility assistance, rent or mortgage assistance, or help getting food or prescriptions filled. We also think it's important to invest in programs that ensure that there's quality, affordable childcare and after school care. I think COVID has really highlighted that childcare and economic stability are inextricably linked. You can't have one without the other. We also invest in programs that make sure that people have access to affordable health care, including behavioral health care. And we have always invested heavily in programs that provide assistance before, during, and after disasters. Additional programs that we focus on are those that provide for the elderly. And then a large part of what we do are programs like Thrive. They're really focused on job training and helping to teach people to reach the point of financial stability so that they fall outside of this ALICE window and that they have a firm economic base where they can survive events like COVID or Hurricane Harvey or anything else.
And the pandemic and economic crisis has not only impacted those that were already struggling, but many who are now struggling for the first time. I'm sure each of us knows somebody that has been personally impacted. What advice could we give for those that need to find somewhere to turn for help?
Yeah, so I've had this in my own business where, I'm involved with the United Way campaign. And so when people know someone's in need, they'll ask, what do we do? And it's pretty easy. You call 211. I mean, that's one of the largest programs at United Way. And the 211 helpline is always open. And those are the people that are the experts at taking people who have needs and putting them in touch with the service providers that can help them.
Thank you. John, turning to you, Ron mentioned United Way Thrive. How does United Way Thrive help families move from struggle to success?
Thanks, Armando. As Ron mentioned, the biggest challenge facing our community is more than half of the families in our community are struggling, living paycheck to paycheck, don't have money for emergencies. Unfortunately, United Way is there providing basic needs, safety net services, and of course the 211 line to help them. But what if these struggling families could achieve financial stability so they didn't need these services? They weren't living paycheck to paycheck. They weren't relying on 211 and the safety net. Wouldn't that be a better outcome? Well, that's what United Way Thrive does. And for more than a decade, we've helped thousands of families get on a path towards financial stability. We work with over 20 partners in an integrated, seamless fashion, providing a wide variety of services to help them achieve that goal. Services like skill development. We want these working families to be in jobs and skills that have higher paying jobs and that they include career ladders. And just because you have a job doesn't mean you're going to get to financial stability. We help these clients and these families through financial training, how to balance a budget, how to build savings, how to acquire assets, so that they can actually have the kind of savings that are needed, especially in a time during this pandemic. We also provide other services that are needed during this path, like child care, like after-school services, mental and physical health care. These are all services that are needed to help that family get to financial stability. You know, United Way Thrive's work in helping these struggling families achieve success, Armando, it's not only powerful and compelling, but as Ron said, it's needed now more than ever.
Point. So while we're all focused right now on the immediate needs caused by the pandemic, many families and individuals face an ongoing struggle. How will United Way's second century vision address those more long-term systemic issues that prevent families from getting ahead?
Well, I think Second Century Vision just takes some of the work that we've done on United Way Thrive and gives us more focus, providing more resources, because we need to scale up in order to meet the needs that Ron pointed out. So Second Century Vision is really doubling down, if you will, Armando, on providing the basic needs that as the data shows, more than half of the families in our community are going to need, and the number is only going to grow. So we need to increase our number of basic services for basic needs. Obviously, the 211 helpline becomes even more important. But now when you think of really solving the problem, helping families reach financial stability, that's where Second Century Vision really provides more focus and more resources so that we can achieve it. It builds on what we've learned, but it adds data, it adds coaching techniques, and it increases the number of services provided in our community to really increase the scale of helping families reach financial stability.
It's very exciting. So the United Way is a leader and convener in solving some of our community's greatest challenges. What are some examples of how United Way is leading and convening Thrive partners to solve these issues?
I mean, I really appreciate you bringing that up, because I think that's not always realized as an important strength with United Way. Most people know we have long relationships with United Way, but they don't realize that oftentimes we're the common denominator where we can bring groups together to solve very specific issues and problems in a much more impactful way to our community. So some examples, particularly United Way Thrive, of this convening, including today, we're bringing some partners, employers, even the Greater Houston Partnership together to identify digital skills that are going to be needed by the workforce in the future, and making sure that our clients are ready with the digital skills needed to get the kinds of high-paying jobs that we want them to get in the future to help them get to financial stability. We're partnering with various service providers today to engage employers to help us understand how our clients can get hired, not just in any job, but high growth, high demand jobs of the future. We're also partnering and convening a group of our partners to develop financial training. I mentioned that earlier for Financial Thrive. We're bringing some of our partners together to develop new financial training techniques and sharing experience. Then finally, It's very common for United Way to routinely bring together our partners so they can share best practices, share resources, and essentially learn from one another. And we're very unique in that. I think we bring people together that wouldn't normally come together on their own, but through United Way they do.
Thank you, John. Sue, affordable childcare and out-of-school options for low-income, hardworking families is a major challenge. At least half of the country's childcare providers are currently closed, and many may not survive the crisis. We know that for an Alice family of 4 with 2 children in childcare, the childcare expense represents on average 20% of a family's monthly budget. What is United Way doing to help address these challenges?
Well, thank you, Armando. I'm really glad that we're talking about education as a part of this entire thing, because truly education is one of those foundational things that will be critical to building the economic opportunities that we're depending on for our family financial stability. United Way has always been focused in education in a couple of key areas. One of them is, as you mentioned, early childhood education, and the other is providing a safe environment in the out of school time. Specifically on early childhood, we know that earlier enriched learning is absolutely critical for a child's success. And if we don't do this, the later we wait, the bigger the gap and the bigger the deficit, and the harder that is to overcome. So back in 2002, the United Way really started their fabulous United Way Bright's Beginning collaboration and partnership. We've expanded over that time from 13 centers to 36 centers, including now we're supporting home-based centers of learning for children, early children. We serve about 1,200 children a year, and we support about 200 early learning professionals in all of our centers. The centers are free, or they're on a sliding scale depending on a family's ability to pay, which is really rare for very high quality child learning environments. In fact, 60% of our United Way Bright's Beginning centers have national accreditation versus about 5% of early childhood centers in the greater Houston area. And I guess for me, the bottom line is we know this works. We have been in almost 20 years, not quite 20 years, but almost 20 years, have the longitudinal studies that show that the alumni of our early childhood programs going into the first grade achieve at a higher level than their peers in traditional schools, and that learning achievement differential persists through 3rd grade, 8th grade based on our standardized testing metrics. So I think that one of the things looking at what the United Way helps support and provide for our families in Houston is this foundational element of providing children and families with the safe, enriched environment to provide them a foundation for long-term educational success.
That's great, Sue. So how does out-of-school enrichment support and tie into the United Way's work to help Alice and others struggling to achieve financial stability and success?
Well, I mean, we know that quality enriched programming in out-of-school time can boost students' academic performance, as well as it can help them with that emotional well-being and the behavioral issues that sometimes you see. We know that out-of-school time programs help address juvenile crime, both to help our children protect them from being victims of crime as well as engaging. We know that when we look at the juvenile crime, it spikes in that 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. period after school. And so providing a quality, safe environment for children during that time is really critical. And as well, out of school time helps these working families because working families, 67% of families both parents work outside of the home, and we know that the school day and the work day don't necessarily coincide. So having a safe, enriched environment for their children to be during this gap in time before they allows them to continue working and to be confident that their children are being well taken care of and actually benefiting from that time. The United Way has focused on several aspects of out-of-school time. The first is providing some engaged summer programming, working to address some of the summer learning loss that our students can experience. We're working with those programs and in collaboration with a lot of providers to help keep students at grade level so they don't dip down during the summertime. We also work with some young adults during the summertime period in that transition from high school to college. This is a challenging transition, especially for many members of our community who might be first-time college students or first-time students going beyond high school and into a post-secondary education. And then the other area is through the school year, we really focus on providing that after-school time of enriched academic support, as well as behavioral, social support for our students. Again, providing the parents with some confidence that their children are safe and that they're continuing to get enriched programming during this out-of-school time.
Right, one more question, Sue. The pandemic has challenged us all to think differently. What are the greatest education-related needs you're seeing, and how is the United Way working to address those needs?
Well, first I would say that just like with everything else, our out-of-school programs at the United Way were impacted by the shift from in-person delivery. We were just getting ready to start up our summer programming, and we had to shift from an in-person hands-on learning experience to a more virtual. And I would say that looking at the support that the United Way education staff gave to our partners in this was incredible. They really, really worked very, very collaborative and proactively with all of our education partners to make sure that that shift occurred and that we could successfully deliver summer programming, even during the COVID pandemic time. But I would have to say one thing that the pandemic has done is it's ripped the blinders off of the technology divide in our community. You know that HISD started school virtually with 12,000 students without access to computers and internet connectivity. And this is something that we probably should have known about, but the experience with COVID has really just made it blatantly obvious that this is something we need to do. And I have to say the United Way doesn't have a solution for this yet, but they are working very carefully on both making people aware of the issue as well as trying to determine ways in which we can support families and address this technology divide in our community.
Thank you, Sue. And thank you to all of our panelists. That was a great conversation. I hope everyone watching today was able to gain more insight into United Way's work and what your support helps make possible. We have a very hardworking board, and if you've got further questions or anything that we can help educate you more on about the United Way, please feel free to reach out to any one of us. I want to mention one other piece of United Way's work. And that's the 211 Texas United Way helpline. 211 is an easy to remember, easy to share entry point for all of the services you heard about today and many others. It is a number to call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to be connected with critical information and resources from food to childcare to help recovering from a hurricane or a pandemic. Last year alone, 211 connected more than 1.3 million people in our community with help. And 211 has already connected more than 1 million people with help this year, a sign of the great need in our community and what a valuable resource 211 is. Thank you again to our panelists and for all of you for all that you do for the United Way. Now I'll turn it back over to Steve.
Thank you, Armando, John, Sue, and Ron. That was a great discussion, and I really enjoyed hearing about different pieces of United Way's work from each of your perspectives. Thank you. That is the work that changes people's lives, and that is the work that our gifts make possible. If you can give, families right here in our community desperately need our help. Every gift can make a difference in someone's life, like David, who you'll see in this video.
My name is David, and I was Alice. I know what it is like to struggle. I know what it's like to work hard and barely make ends meet. Alice may not be who you expect. Chances are you already know Alice. 40% of the people in the greater Houston area are Alice. I was one of them. Before Alice, life for us was good. My wife and I were working hard, and while we had some money saved, we did not have anywhere enough set aside to prepare for my becoming ill. I was diagnosed with cancer, and in short order, I was not able to work, and that began a years-long journey of being unemployed. You know, while I was sick, I was not able to provide for my family, and it was just a difficult time. There really wasn't anything that I could do about it to change that fact or the circumstances that I was in. And, you know, I more or less took one day at a time and trusted that tomorrow would be a better day. And that hope and the assistance that the United Way provided kept our family solvent and afloat during those difficult days and months that lie ahead of me. Now, the fact of the matter is, none of us knows what tomorrow holds. And in my case, it held leukemia, AML, and I just never expected to have to deal with that, nor did I foresee the consequences of the financial burden that would put on myself and my family. I just did not see that coming. The folks at United Way provided me the assistance that I needed to get back on my feet. And what I mean by that is to start feeling whole again. I was able to go back to work, and, you know, that gave me some of my need to provide for my family and a sense of accomplishment. And it started off very small, you know, but it was just a step-by-step process, and I stuck with it. They put the people that I needed most at the time when I needed them the most. It was difficult for me to understand that I needed help and how to go about getting that help. I know that there are many, many today that are experiencing the same struggles that I once did. And, you know, I want to encourage them to reach out to get hope and to ask for help, and that tomorrow will be a better day because of what you make today, the decisions that you make.
David's story is very encouraging, and your help makes his success possible. I hope you enjoyed our program today, and I hope you feel inspired and energized and ready to be part of this mission. We are so excited to close with a very special performance by legendary Houstonian, performer, activist, and lead singer of The Suffers, Cam Franklin. Thank you for all you do, and please give it up for Cam.
Hi, my name is Cam Franklin, and I'm the lead singer of The Suffers. I want to say thank you so much to United Way for having me, and thank you so much for just supporting such a great cause and for watching what I hope is about to be a really fun, almost live concert experience for you. Keep being awesome, keep supporting good causes, and have a great day. Thank you, guys.
How y'all doing? y'all doing? My name is Cam Franklin. I am the lead singer of a band from right here in Houston, Texas called The Suffers. This is our brand new single. It's called Take Me to the Good Times. You know, I know we're all going through all kinds of stuff right now. We all deserve a good time right now. So we're gonna do it together. I need you to shake it off. Shake off all that negative energy, okay? Because it goes like, yeah. I just wanna get out most days, you see. And I'm walking around, it's good for me. Could you take for me well? We could go eat. Take me to the good town. I just gotta get out most days, you see. And I'm walking around, it's good for me. Could you take for me well? We could go eat. Take me to the good town. Summer's in Brooklyn. Ooh, in the age. Shake it on the rooftop on MLK. Springtime in London, fall in Tokyo. I fall in love more every time I go there. Ooh, when the sun comes out in Portland, I'm driving on the good man. I might stick around until the colors change. I just gotta get out on stage, you see. And I'm walking around, it's good for me. You know me well, we could go. You take me to the good time. I just gotta get out on stage, you see. And I'm walking around, it's good for me. You know me well, we could go. You take me to the good times. Trying to hang like a local. Could you tell me where to go? Stick it on that you better than you know all. Grab some heroes in Chicago. I'ma pass on money, Lord, and take a recommendation for a good grandma. Hey, when the sun comes out and pushing out, and doesn't know everything in there, I might stick around until the colors change. I just gotta get out on stage, you see. Looking around, it's good for me. Could you do for me well? We could go. Take me to the good times. I just gotta get out on stage, you see. Looking around, it's good for me. Could you do for me well? We could go. Take me to the good times. I come to see my people. I'm trying to see my people. I got to see my people. I'm trying to see my people. Could you tell me where we are? Where we bring it? Trying to tell me what we eat. Who's cooking? Who's singing? Give me the beat. Or who's cleaning? Who's seeing the lead? Where we eat? Where we eat? In the field? Or where we eat? Who's cooking? Who's cleaning? Give me the beat. Who's cleaning? Who's seeing? Please. I just gotta get out on stage, you see. And I'm walking around, it's good for me. Could you tell me well? We could go eat. With a good time. Get out on stage, you see. I'm walking around, it's good for me. You know me well, we could go with a good time. Take me to the good time, girl. Take me to the good time, girl. Back to LA, back to New York City, back to London, everybody. Back to Paris, y'all. Take me back to Mexico City. Take me back to New Orleans. To Atlanta, back to Nashville, back to Las Vegas, back to Rita, back home to New York, back to Portland, back to Philadelphia, back to Tokyo, back to San Antonio, back to Rio, back to San Francisco, back to Toronto. Y'all take care of each other. Take care of yourselves. Stay lifted. And if you got a chance, keep listening to The Suffers. We'd love to hear from you more and more and more. TheSuffers.com, we love you. Take care. Have a great time, y'all.